The man was jolted awake from his sleep. He sprang out of bed, got dressed in a hurry, grabbed his shotgun and moved to the window. Using a mirror to check the yard outside without exposing himself, he spotted a frail old woman with white hair standing there, staring at him in a deeply unsettling way. He rushed outside at once and carefully scanned the area, staying alert for an ambush. After making sure no one else was hiding nearby, he slowly backed toward the house. Then she finally spoke.
Would you be able to spare some of your crop?
But Nick kept his eyes locked on them, unmoved and suspicious. Seeing that, the old woman dropped the metal tool she was holding and signaled for the young woman behind her to pull out a bag filled with gold and jewelry, hoping to trade it for food. Nick only gave it a cold glance before refusing her outright. In a world after the apocalypse, so-called treasure was worth less than a single potato. Realizing Nick would not be so easily fooled, the old woman pulled out another bag. Afraid he might not understand, she crouched down, grabbed a handful of dirt, and spread it across her palm, trying to show that whatever was in the bag could be used to grow food. The mention of food immediately caught Nick's attention. He stepped forward carefully and bent down to pick it up, but the moment he realized it was nothing more than a sheet of cultivation instructions, he tossed it right back. The old woman let out a sigh. Then she pulled the young woman behind her forward. The moment Nick saw the girl's youthful face, something inside him shifted again. After years of living alone, he wavered. After a long hesitation, he finally decided to let the mother and daughter inside. Once they were in, he ordered both women to stand with their backs to him. He thoroughly searched them, making sure neither of them was carrying a weapon. Only then did he cut off a piece of potato and make them a simple meal. After they devoured the food, Nick immediately locked the old woman in the next room, leaving only Katie alone with him. What happened next was exactly what you would expect. The next morning, the old woman suggested marrying her daughter off to Nick so they could stay on the farm and help him clear more land. But Nick rejected the idea without hesitation. He knew he was already barely holding on by himself, and expanding too fast would only bring more danger. So he picked up his shotgun and urged them to leave immediately. Before they left, the old woman grabbed the last potato from the table. Nick said nothing and simply nodded. But just as they were about to step out the door, Katie suddenly stopped. She turned around, walked back into the house, picked up a wash basin, and covered Nick's face in shaving foam. Then she grabbed a straight razor and slowly stepped toward him. Nick instinctively raised his gun and pressed it against her, unable to relax even though he clearly enjoyed the intimacy of the moment. In the end, he let the two of them stay. With the mother and daughter helping out, work on the farm became much more efficient. But before long, the old woman began plotting something else. While Nick and Katie were outside talking, she searched the entire house from top to bottom, but she could not find a single bullet. She later told Katie what she had discovered, but Katie explained that Nick always kept 2 bullets hidden in his pocket, and that she could quietly steal them during the night. Because the two women knew the truth, a tiny farm like this could never keep 3 people alive. If they wanted to survive, Nick had to go. That very night, Katie stole the bullets. The next day, the old woman quietly approached Nick from behind, lifting a shovel and preparing to knock him out. But just then, Nick suddenly noticed a string of unfamiliar footprints on the ground. At the same time, Katie, who was washing up by the river, was suddenly grabbed from behind, a hand clamped tightly over her mouth. By the time Nick reached the riverbank, all he found was a boot she had dropped in the struggle. He followed the tracks into the tall grass. Staring at the reeds towering even higher than he was, Nick crouched down to load his shotgun. That was when he realized the bullets were already gone. In an instant, he understood that he had been played by the mother and daughter. But after only a brief pause, he made his choice. He stood up and exposed himself, hoping to draw the enemy out. Not far away, a man was lying flat on the ground, staring at Nick like a starving animal watching its prey. Then came a gunshot. Nick dropped instantly. Only after seeing that Nick was no longer moving, did the man use Katie as a shield and slowly move closer. Once he confirmed that Nick had really been hit, a vicious look crossed his face, and he prepared to finish him off with another shot. But wanting to save ammunition, he pulled out a knife instead. And right at that moment, Nick suddenly woke up. Fighting through the searing pain tearing through his body, he grabbed the man's pistol and, with Katie helping him, made his way back to the cabin. Once inside, he used a knife to dig the bullet out of the wound, then cauterized it with a red-hot iron. But after everything that had happened, after the betrayal, Nick no longer trusted the mother and daughter at all. He raised the pistol and locked them both inside the bedroom. What he did not realize was that his nightmare had only just begun.